Welcome! My name is Bella and I am a lover of physical media. Like many online, there's a physical media revolution. However, I have been pioneering this movement for many years now, and so I wanted to share some of my favorite pieces of physical media that I have accumulated, but mostly I just wanted to share a list of my absolute favorite things. And I'm going to be talking about my favorite records, my favorite CDs, my favorite books, my favorite movies. I'm going to be showing you some VHS tapes that I have, but mostly I want to talk about my favorite artists and multimedia artists, authors, writers, musicians, and how all of these things culminate together to make me who I am as a person. And I think it will serve as an incredible document here in the year 2025 of who I am based on the things that I enjoy. But in addition to serving as a document to who I am, the hope is that maybe you see some of these very cool things that I happen to enjoy, and maybe you can pick up a couple new interests along the way. I am really excited to get into this. I haven't done a cumulative video like this before, and I thought it would be a good thing to come back to my channel with. So let's get into it. First, I'm going to be talking about a book/movie. Firstly, I would like to talk about Orlando by Virginia Woolf. I have talked about this on my channel so many times. I love the book and I love the film as well. This is the VHS tape that I got at Half Price Books. I do have a VCR and I do watch my VHS tapes. I just think it's so wonderful. I really do believe in the power of physical media and owning your media. I think this movie is really hard to find online. It's known on streaming, so it is really important to me that I own it, since it is an incredible adaptation of this book. And I think Sally Potter is an incredible filmmaker and did a wonderful job with this film. Tilda Swinton is probably my favorite actor of all time. And just the way that Tilda Swinton captures Orlando in this movie is just phenomenal. I love this book and just this story in general for many reasons. I think Virginia Woolf is one of my favorite writers, and it is one of the first stories to capture gender fluidity in such a modern and fresh way. This story, if you don't know, follows an English aristocrat named Orlando over the span of hundreds of years, and Orlando is immortal. And across these hundreds of years, Orlando starts the book as a man and then transitions into a woman. It is a kind of unique trans story because it's not really about identity. This change in gender is something that just kind of happens to Orlando, but it's more or less about how the perspective of the character changes from man to woman, and how society and society's view on gender roles change throughout the centuries. And I think that it's done so incredibly well. And it's also about love, it's about literature, and it's also about home, strangely, and about how we feel at home in our bodies and in this world, and how we change and evolve. And it's about so many different things, but it's just a story that means so much to me, and I think it's probably my favorite novel of all time. I don't have enough good things to say. I think it is just brilliant. And transitioning very nicely into our next topic of conversation, one of my favorite artists is Derek Jarman, who is a filmmaker, poet, gardener, who is known for so many different things. But I want to talk about a couple different pieces of media by Derek Jarman. So first, mostly known for his films in sort of the new queer cinema era of the 1990s. He was a British filmmaker, and so I have this DVD. It's from the library, but of Edward II, which is an adaptation of the Christopher Marlowe play. And I only watched this recently, but it's become one of my favorites. It adapts this play and keeps the original Elizabethan language, but transforms the look of what you think like a Shakespeare era play would look like. It's in an empty stone castle, but the costumes are rich and colorful, and again, both of these movies, I'm going to talk about the other one in a second, but I believe also costumed by Sandy Powell. So connecting back to Orlando, I just think it's so wonderful how the things that I love are intertwined in ways that I never even imagined. When I found out that there was a consistency in the costume design, it was like the heavens opened up to me. It was wonderful. The most fun you can have is drawing connections and building your inner world. But I love this movie. It is so queer, it's so relevant, and it's kind of very art housey, so I think you kind of have to be very open to that. I think with Wittgenstein as well. This is my VHS of Wittgenstein, Derek Jarman's last film, which I think is also my favorite. This film, it's also kind of very art house. The set design, it has a completely like dark black, inky black backdrop to the film, and it very much looks like they're filming a play in the same way that Edward II is a play, but it's about the philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein, and it also stars Tilda Swinton, and they have these just incredible costumes. It's about language. It's about, to quote Wittgenstein himself, the limit of our language is the limit of our world. How do we communicate with each other and understand what we're saying? The soundtrack has a beautiful like, classical music backdrop. Both of these films are just everything that I would want in a film. They're intelligent, they're political, they're also very emotional, the undertones of queerness. It's just, Derek Jarman is an artist whose work I just resonate with so significantly. I want to talk about the book, Modern Nature, as well. This is less about filmmaking, but more about Derek Jarman's gardening, which is also something that he's known for. He lived in a cottage on the English coastline in a place that was very desolate. It was very hard to grow there. There was lots of wind by like a power plant or something, I believe. But it's about how he was still able to build something beautiful and make things grow, and just the meditations on nature in this book is incredible. And I think if you want to kind of get a sense of what the book is about, in the publication The Guardian, the author Olivia Lang talks about this book very well, and what is modern nature and what does it mean? How is nature queer in itself, and how does queer identity and nature intertwine and sort of change the way that we think about the natural world? Anyway, if you love gardening and you love nature, this is a great book. It was written in Derek Jarman's final years before he passed away of AIDS, and it's so beautifully written as well. It's very literary, so if you're into very floral language, I think this is also going to be for you. And it's one of my favorite books. It's phenomenal. Okay, moving on. I also want to talk about some more books, movies, music that I love. I think another one of my favorite artists is Patti Smith. I have my Horses CD here, and I have my copy of Just Kids. I have loved Patti Smith since I visited a botanical garden that was displaying both her work and the work of Robert Mapplethorpe, and that led me to read Just Kids. And it's a book about the life of an artist. What does it mean to live a creative life? And I think as an adult, as a young adult, reading this book and understanding that you don't have to be this perfect, fully formed artist when you're so young. All you have to do is just keep creating. And Patti Smith talks a lot about how Robert Mapplethorpe and the friendship and the artistic relationship that they developed sort of taught her how to be an artist and about how to build that practice, because it really is about building a life around your creativity. And I think that's something that I always want to do, and it's something that Patti Smith just taught me to do. And I also think her music is phenomenal as well. Oh my gosh, I think one of the best songs of all time, one of the best rock songs, is Gloria. It's just amazing. I picked this up secondhand at a local shop, and I listen to it in the car all the time. But yes, Patti Smith is wonderful, one of the best artists of all time, and one of my personal favorites. Next, I want to talk about a story that I have discussed repeatedly on my channel over the years, and that is Morris. I won't go too deep into it. Also, I know people pronounce it differently, but in the film they do pronounce it Morris instead of like Maurice or anything like that. Because I've seen the film so many times, that's just how I'm gonna choose to say it. Anyway, this story is originally written by E.M. Forster. E.M. Forster wrote this book around 1913, 1914 in Edwardian England. It's very much a portrait of the time. This book wasn't published, however, until the 1970s after his death, and shortly after, oh, there's my cat. Shortly after the book was published, Merchant Ivory Film Productions, who make incredible period pieces, adapted this into a film. It stars a young Hugh Grant as well. It is just an incredibly thought-provoking and beautiful story about love and identity and self-acceptance, and about how we can't suppress who we are no matter what the world thinks of us. And it's really a story about bravery as well. You see a character in this story who decides to conform, and what it does to you to be a conformist. And what this story tells us is that the only way we can find empowerment through our identities is through rejecting conformity and being true to ourselves, which I know describing that sounds a little bit corny, but this story is so earnest, and I think was a great teacher for how to walk through the world. You have to be true to yourself no matter what. And it does that in a very genuine and beautiful and moving way. I think this is one of the most beautiful films ever shot. I think frame by frame, it's like a painting, it's a piece of art. It really is just so beautiful. And the writing, E.M. Forster is of course an incredible writer, and this is a queer classic for a reason. I love this edition that I have. It's the movie edition. I have another copy of this book as well, but I just like that they go together so well. But I also think the soundtrack is incredibly beautiful, and I have the soundtrack on vinyl so that I can listen to it whenever I want. So yes, I love physical media, I love VHS tapes, I love books, and I love Morris. Alright, I think this next section I'm going to walk you through some music that I like. Alright, I'm going to start with some of my CDs. I already showed you my Patti Smith CD, but there are so many albums that I love, but I just wanted to show you my favorites that I specifically have on CD here, and vinyl as well, but we'll get to that. I have Liz Phair, Whip Smart, incredible rock album, Galaxy 500, On Fire, amazing. This is a new favorite, but The Pains of Being Pure at Heart, self-titled. I picked this up in the Netherlands when I was there, and I also love The Breeders. This is a Breeders EP, one of my favorite bands. Moving on, I have a stack of vinyl that I'm gonna go through. Some of these records really do sort of define me as a person, but I'm gonna go through them pretty quickly. We have Fleet Foxes, self-titled. This is an amazing record. I listen to it constantly. It is just that very classic 2010s American indie folk. If you know the song White Winter Hymnal, that is from this album, probably their most popular song. But it is just a stunning record, and I love the Fleet Foxes. I've seen them in concert twice. One time was in Tennessee, in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and they have a song called the Blue Ridge Mountains, and it was, I think, one of the most amazing experiences of live music that I have ever had. Moving on, this is kind of random, but I love Hesitant Alien. I think my favorite song, one of my favorite songs of all time, is called Drugstore Perfume, and it's on this album, so I would recommend listening to that song. It's heartbreaking, but it's so beautiful. It is so beautiful. Next, we have Mott the Hoople. I grew up on like 70s Brit rock, and I don't have any like David Bowie records or like Rolling Stones or anything like that, but I do have this. I think a really awesome song from this record is Sweet Jane. It's great. Next, I have Elliott Smith, Either Or, a very classic indie rock record. I think it's one of the best albums of all time. You can't really go wrong. I also love the Cocktail Twins. This is Milk and Kisses. It is a great record. And lastly, I want to talk about Stereolab Dots and Loops. It's not I don't think it's my favorite Stereolab record. I think it would be hard to choose a favorite record by them, but I love this band. It is just really delightful. I think if you want to listen to something that is just very kind of like jangly and pretty, I think Stereolab is that record for when you go on a walk and it's a beautiful day and life feels beautiful. I think that's Stereolab in a nutshell for me. I just love them. They're just a delight. Now I'm going to go through some movies very quickly. I have a nice big stack to go through. But these are movies that are very near and dear to me. First, we have Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. This is a masterpiece in queer cinema, in my opinion, starring Patrick Swayze as a drag queen. They are sort of driving across the country and they get stranded in this small town. And it's about love, and it's about acceptance and friendship, and I think this is the feel-good queer movie of all time. I love it. I could watch it over and over again. It's about bringing people together, and I think it's what the world needs right now. So yeah, it's one of my favorites, and if you haven't seen it, I would watch it for sure. Next, we have Another Country, another kind of British, I wouldn't say it's Edwardian. Maybe it is, I don't remember. I haven't seen it in a long time. But another kind of early 20th century British melancholy type of thing. It's very Brideshead revisited, starring Colin Firth and Rupert Everett. This is a sort of underrated queer classic film that I would recommend to people. It's, again, very like sumptuous and beautiful. If you like Merchant Ivory, this is gonna be right in the same wheelhouse. But I love it. I think it's very moving. I think it's about disillusionment with the world, and it's also about identity and how we navigate that as a young person and how that causes us to sort of disaffiliate from the worlds that we grew up in. Anyway, it's a very beautiful film and very well done. I have Breakfast in Tiffany's. It's a classic. Audrey Hepburn was probably my #1 diva growing up. I love her. Perks of Being a Wallflower, enough said. I think this is a very formative coming of age. Both the book and the movie, it was very formative for me and many other people growing up. Also, as a Pittsburgher, it means a lot to me. Yeah, it's an incredible film. And next we have The Watermelon Woman by Cheryl Dunya. I first encountered this film probably about 2020 actually, when I was first starting my degree in gender studies. In an introductory class, we watched this movie and it instantly became a classic for me. Okay, and we're rounding out the end of this list of media that defines me. And I wanted to talk through just a couple of books in this video. I'm not gonna go very in-depth with novels or anything, because I might make another video about the books that sort of define me, but I'm just gonna talk about a few. Okay, something that I'm very interested in and have been very interested in since I was younger is medieval history, but specifically Arthurian legend. I have a couple titles here that I specifically enjoy. I have the Roger Lancelyn Green, King Arthur and His Knights of the Round Table. It's a very beautiful edition, and even the back as well. There are these beautiful woodcuts in here. Just love reading about the legends. I think it's just so interesting to me. It's one of those sort of special interests where you can't really explain why, but it's just kind of part of who I am. I also have another book of Arthurian romances and an Oxford Classics edition as well. I don't usually read these back to back, but I like to dip into them every once in a while, and I just think it's super interesting, and I wanted to include that because it is sort of something that defines like my aesthetic sensibilities and just something that I'm really interested in. So lastly, I wanted to talk about the power of the short story. I am an adamant reader of short stories. I think I read more short stories than novels, nonfiction, or anything. I am a writer and I write short stories. It's the form that I think speaks to me the most. And so I wanted to talk about, first of all, a short story collection by Ali Smith called Public Library. I think it's so brilliant, and Ali Smith is one of my favorite writers, but this collection was so inspiring to me when I was first learning the craft of short story writing. There's just something about it. I don't know, it's so joyful. I think literary fiction can be so serious and can feel like a slog when you're reading it, but never Ali Smith. It's always a joy to read her work. But I think this collection is very nice because there's a common unity about the power of books and about the power of literature that really spoke to me when I picked it up. And I would say if you're looking for a good short story collection, this one is very inspiring. Lastly, I wanted to talk about just one short story, and it is featured in the most recent Best American Short Stories 2024, edited by Lauren Groff, who is also a great writer that I enjoy. But the story that I wanted to talk about specifically is called Enjolras by Taisia Kiriskaya. I really hope that I'm pronouncing it correctly. But I wanted to tell a bit of a story before I get into why I love this short story. So sometimes I go to the public library and I just go to the magazine section, I pick up a literary magazine, and I just read a random short story just for fun because I love short stories. And I happened to pick up the Virginia Quarterly Review, which Enjolras was originally published in. I read that story and I loved it. And then I was in the airport a couple months back and I pick up the Best American Short Stories because I'm like, oh, I wonder what's in here. And I look in the contents and I see that very same short story that I loved, that I'd read a couple months previous, and I just thought it was so serendipitous. And the fact that I was able to have this book and have this story that I love in my own personal connection, in my own personal collection, just meant a lot to me. And this story, it is just so well done. It's about a woman who goes to a ranch in Texas, and it's owned by a family of very strange British people, and it's very surreal, very Lynchian. It's exactly the kind of thing that I would enjoy, and it's everything that I want in a story. And it was so inspiring to me as a writer because it encouraged me to lean into the surreal. I always worried that magical realism wasn't going to be literary enough, but this story just transported me and I fell in love with it. But yeah, that is Enjolras by Taisia Kiriskaya, originally from the Virginia Quarterly Review, but you can find it in this anthology, and I just love it. This whole anthology is really great as well. I'm working my way through it and it is just an incredible collection. And so we have reached the end. That is all of the media, not all of it, but sort of the greatest hits of the media that I believe sort of defines me as a person and that make me who I am. I think it's really cool to make a list like this. Maybe I'll do one every year and I'll just keep updating it as I grow and evolve as a person. I hope you found some new things. Maybe you recognize some favorites. I did talk about a couple classics. But yeah, it is such a joy to talk about the things that I love so much. I feel like I'm not great at just bringing up things that I love in everyday conversations. So it's so nice to get to just sit down and film a video and talk about the things that speak to my soul. All of this art and all of these artists that I discussed mean so much to me and have really developed my own creativity and have inspired me immeasurably. So I hope that maybe some of these things can inspire you as well. I hope that you've developed a good list of things that you want to take away. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I really want to start posting more regularly. This is a wonderful home for me to just talk about things that I love. So I hope that you'll stick around, and until next time, I hope that you have a very wonderful day.